Have you ever felt it? That moment when time stops, when the noise of the world falls away, and something deep within you whispers, "They're here." Not because you saw them coming, not because you planned it or chased it or tried to make it happen, but because every cell in your body suddenly recognized a frequency it had been tuning into without you even knowing. It's not love at first sight. It's deeper than that. It's recognition at first breath. Like your soul exhaled after holding something in for lifetimes and said, finally, the room could be full of 100 people, but there's only one energy calling to yours, and yours, responding without permission from your logical mind. Most of us spend years trying to force these connections. We chase, we convince, we perform, we analyze every text message and wonder why love feels like work instead of wonder. But what if I told you that when two souls are meant to align, no force in the universe can keep them apart? And more importantly, what if that alignment doesn't happen out there in the world of chance and circumstance, but in here, in the realm of assumption and imagination? What if the connection you're seeking is not something you create, but something you recognize? Something that already exists, waiting for you to believe it into your experience. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it in your world? I'm grateful you're here, sharing this space where imagination meets truth. Let's step into the teaching. There are two kinds of people in this world when it comes to connection. Those who chase it from emptiness, and those who attract it from fullness. The difference isn't in what they do, it's in what they assume about themselves. Watch someone desperate for love. They scroll endlessly, craft the perfect messages, analyze every response for hidden meaning. They show up to every gathering, hoping tonight will be the night. They broadcast need like a radio signal, sending out waves of "I am incomplete" into the universe. And the universe, being the perfect mirror it is, sends back exactly that frequency. More incompleteness, more searching, more evidence that love is something outside themselves that must be captured and convinced. But Neville Goddard knew a secret that transforms everything. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. When your inner state is one of lacking connection, you magnetize experiences that confirm that lack. When someone approaches you from scarcity, you feel it immediately. There's a heaviness, a grasping quality that makes you want to step back rather than step closer. Now imagine someone who has done the inner work, someone who knows, not hopes, but knows that perfect alignment already exists for them. They don't seek connection because they feel it flowing through them constantly. When they enter a room, there's no desperation in their energy, no scanning for validation. There's presence. There's peace. There's the quiet confidence of someone who assumes their desires are already fulfilled. This person doesn't chase because they don't need to. They've discovered what Neville taught. Imagination creates reality, and when you assume the feeling of perfect soul alignment, you become irresistible to that exact frequency. Neville Goddard spent his life revealing one truth that changes everything. Imagination is not fantasy. Imagination is the creative power of God operating through you. And when you truly understand this, you realize that the soul connection you desire doesn't need to be created. It needs to be assumed. Listen carefully to what this means. Right now, in this moment, there exists a state of consciousness where you and your perfectly aligned soul are already together. Not in some distant future when the stars align or when you finally become worthy enough. Now, in the realm of imagination, which Neville called the only reality. When you assume this state completely, when you feel it so deeply that doubt cannot touch it, something extraordinary happens. The external world begins to rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. Not because you're manipulating people or forcing circumstances, but because consciousness is the only reality, and imagination is how consciousness expresses itself. This is not visualization. This is not positive thinking. This is assumption. There's a profound difference. When you visualize, you're trying to create something. When you assume, you're recognizing what already is. You're not hoping for the connection. You're not working toward it. You're living from the end, where it's already perfect, already established, already flowing. The moment you truly assume this state, Time and space become irrelevant. Distance becomes meaningless. Whether that soul is across the room or across the world, the connection exists first in imagination, and imagination is where all things are made real. This is why Neville said to live in the end, not to live hoping for the end, but to live from the end. To think, feel, and move through your day as someone whose soul alignment is already perfect. Because in imagination, it is. Now comes the practical application of this eternal truth. How do you assume the state of perfect soul alignment? How do you live from the end when your current circumstances seem to contradict everything you desire? Neville gave us a precise technique, refined through years of testing and teaching. Find a quiet moment, preferably before sleep, when your conscious mind releases its grip on logic. Close your eyes and let your body relax completely. Feel yourself sinking into that drowsy state where imagination flows freely. Now, assume the feeling of perfect harmony with another soul. Not a specific person, but the essence of perfect alignment itself. Feel what it would be like to experience complete understanding, effortless communication, natural rhythm between two consciousness. Let this feeling fill your entire being until there's no part of you that doesn't know this connection intimately. The key is in the feeling, not the details. Don't construct elaborate scenarios or force specific images. Simply rest in the satisfaction, the peace, the quiet joy of souls that recognize each other completely. Feel the absence of struggle, the presence of ease, the natural flow of love given and received without effort. Once you capture this feeling, this is your new identity. You are not someone seeking soul alignment. You are someone who experiences it constantly. Carry this assumption into your waking hours. When loneliness tries to convince you otherwise, return to the feeling. When doubt whispers that connection is rare or difficult, remind yourself that you already live in perfect harmony. This isn't pretending or positive thinking. This is aligning with truth. In imagination, your desire is already fulfilled. Your work is simply to maintain conscious awareness of what already is, rather than being hypnotized by what appears to be. Remember, you're not trying to manifest a specific person. You're embodying the consciousness of someone who experiences perfect soul connection. When you truly become this, the right soul appears as naturally as sunrise follows night. And then comes the test. You've assumed the state. You've felt the reality of perfect alignment in imagination. You've carried this knowing into your daily life. But the external world hasn't shifted yet. The phone doesn't ring. The coffee shop remains empty of meaningful glances. Your current reality seems to mock your inner conviction. This is where most people abandon the teaching. They mistake the silence for failure. They interpret the delay as proof that imagination doesn't work. They return to old patterns of seeking, chasing, trying to make things happen through external effort. But Neville understood something profound about this apparent waiting period. The silence is not emptiness, it's incubation. Like seeds planted in dark soil, your assumption is taking root in dimensions you cannot see. Every moment you maintain the feeling of perfect alignment, you're strengthening the invisible foundation upon which your desire will manifest. Think of how nature works. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to check its progress. You water the soil and trust the process happening beneath the surface. Your assumption is the seed. Your persistence in the feeling is the water. The silence is the dark, fertile ground where impossible becomes inevitable. During this period, your faith is being purified. Not faith in circumstances changing, but faith in imagination as the ultimate reality. You learn to persist, not because you see evidence, but because you know truth. The external world becomes less important than the internal state. You discover that you can be perfectly content with your soul connection, even when others cannot see it yet. This is when you truly understand Neville's teaching. The manifestation is not the goal. The state is the goal. When you can remain in perfect alignment regardless of appearances, you've mastered the art of assumption. And it's precisely at this moment of inner stability that the external must yield to match your unwavering inner conviction. And then it happens, not with fanfare or dramatic revelation, but with a quiet naturalness of breathing. The soul you've known in imagination steps into your physical experience. But here's what surprises most people. The external meeting feels like remembering rather than discovering. There's no shock, no disbelief, no sense that something impossible just occurred. Instead, there's a deep exhale of recognition. Of course they're here. Of course the conversation flows like water finding its level. Of course there's no awkwardness, no performing, no wondering what to say next. This is what you've been assuming all along. You realize that your maintained assumption didn't create this person, or manipulate circumstances to bring you together. It revealed what was always true in imagination, and imagination is the foundation of all reality. The connection doesn't feel new because it isn't new. You've been living in this harmony for weeks or months in consciousness. Now it's simply becoming apparent to your physical senses. Watch how effortlessly everything unfolds. The timing that seemed impossible becomes perfect. The obstacles that appeared insurmountable dissolve like morning mist. Mutual friends appear from nowhere to make introductions. Circumstances align with mathematical precision. But none of this feels forced or coincidental. It feels like the natural order expressing itself. This is when you understand the power of assumption at the deepest level. You didn't make anything happen through willpower or manipulation. You simply held steady in a state of consciousness where this alignment already existed, and reality reorganized itself to match that inner conviction. The conversations revealed depths you've never shared with anyone else. Time behaves strangely when you're together, hours passing like minutes. There's no need to explain yourself, because understanding exists before words. This isn't projection or wishful thinking. This is what Neville called the meeting of states, where two people recognize the same truth about connection and love. But the most profound realization is this: the experience confirms that your imagination was not fantasy. It was prophecy. It was consciousness, showing you what was always available when you assumed the right state. Now comes the integration. This perfect soul alignment doesn't remain a peak experience that you treasure and protect. It becomes your new normal. The state you assumed in imagination has become your natural way of being in the world. You no longer question whether the connection is real or wonder if it might disappear. Not because you're holding on to it, but because you understand that what exists in consciousness first is eternal. Circumstances may shift, physical forms may change, but the essence of perfect alignment lives in imagination, which is timeless and unshakable. This understanding transforms every relationship in your life. You stop trying to force connections that don't flow naturally. You stop settling for interactions that drain your energy or require you to be less than who you are. You've tasted what true alignment feels like, and anything less simply doesn't match your new frequency. Your conversations with others become deeper, more authentic. People sense something different about you, a quality of presence that wasn't there before. You listen without agenda because you're not seeking anything from them. You speak without fear because you know your worth isn't determined by their response. Even brief encounters carry a quality of recognition. The checkout clerk at the store, the neighbor walking their dog, the stranger on the bus. You see them through the lens of consciousness recognizing itself, rather than through the filter of separation and judgment. This is what Neville meant when he spoke of living from imagination rather than the senses. Your daily life is now informed by what you know to be true in consciousness, not by what appears to be true in the world of effects. You've learned to trust the invisible foundation beneath all visible forms. The soul alignment you experienced wasn't just about finding one perfect person. It was about discovering your true relationship to all of life. It was about awakening to the creative power within you that shapes every experience through the simple act of assumption. What you've discovered through this journey of soul alignment is the doorway to Neville's greatest teaching. Imagination is God. The creative power that brought two souls together in perfect harmony is the same power that creates galaxies, seasons, and every experience you've ever had. When you assume the feeling of perfect connection, and watched it unfold in your physical world, you witnessed the fundamental principle of all creation. Consciousness, imagining itself into infinite forms and expressions. Every desire fulfilled through assumption is consciousness knowing itself more completely. The soul you aligned with is not separate from you. They are consciousness appearing as another, giving you the gift of experiencing love, recognition, and unity through a parent relationship. But the deepest truth is this: the love you feel for them is the love consciousness has for itself. The recognition you share is awareness meeting itself in seeming multiplicity. This is why, when two souls truly align in imagination, no force can keep them apart. Not because of romantic destiny or external fate, but because consciousness cannot be divided against itself. What exists in imagination already is, timelessly and eternally. Every connection you experience, every moment of perfect understanding, every breath of harmony between souls is consciousness celebrating its own creative power through you. You are not just having these experiences. You are consciousness itself, dreaming the beautiful dream of separation and reunion, of seeking and finding, of souls calling to souls across the seeming void. This is the timeless truth Neville revealed. When you know yourself as imagination, you know yourself as God. And God's imagination always fulfills itself perfectly. The soul alignment was just the beginning. Now you know who you really are.